If your offering is what is happening between your ears, then you should have a podcast. By putting yourself in front of people, answering questions, assuaging fears, positioning yourself as an expert, you take yourself away from being commoditized, which means that the only thing that matters is price. You want to be a service with authority, because I've watched your podcast, I've seen your videos, and it's like, so what is it going to take for me to work with you? And that's a totally different question.
Welcome to the Marketing Boost Solutions Podcast, the #1 source for proven solutions to all your marketing challenges.
Today's guest is someone who understands two words most business owners rarely see come together: legal expertise and powerful authority-driven marketing. Dennis, Mr. D.M. Meador, is the founder of Legal Podcast Network, one of the country's most respected voices in legal marketing and strategic business growth. For more than 25 years, Dennis has helped attorneys and entrepreneurs across multiple industries grow with clarity, credibility, and brand authority. He's a creator, a strategist, a marketing mind who knows how to turn expertise into influence and influence into revenue. Through the Legal Podcast Network, Dennis helps law firms develop high-impact podcasts that attract ideal clients, elevate visibility, establish long-term trust in an industry where reputation is everything. So today we're going to dive deep into the intersection between business and marketing, entrepreneurship, and the legal world, and how business owners can properly grow their business in this noisy marketplace. Mr. DM, Dennis Meador, welcome to the Marketing Boost Solutions Podcast.
Thank you very much for having me, Marco. Had a chance to listen to a couple of your episodes, so really excited to be on here. You do a great job, so hopefully together we can put together a great episode.
You bet. I'm sure we will, Dennis. I mean, one of the things that most of us don't reach out to thinking, as your background shows, you've helped in all circles of all kinds of businesses. You help I think you told me before we hit the record button, you had 35 new clients last month. So you're doing great, and you're not necessarily, it's all about how can you help other entrepreneurs overcome the difficulties, of marketing, the strategies, and staying legal as well, I guess, is one of your expertises. So,
I'm not an attorney. I'm not an attorney. I always make sure people know that, but I do play one on Zoom, so that works.
I like that. I play one on Zoom. So tell us a bit about, before we get into tell us your story a little bit, elevator pitch. How'd you get where you're at, where you're now, and helping other business owners grow?
Sure. So I've been a serial entrepreneur. My first sort of entrepreneurial stint was when I was 14. Did that for 2 or 3 years, basically just organized my brother's. He was about 2 years younger than me. So him and his friends, I got the lawn mowing jobs, the snow shoveling jobs, the raking jobs, and even the paper routes. And I would get them, collect them, be the face, and then they would go and do the job. We would split the money. They didn't have to knock on doors of adults back in the late 90s, early 90s, late 80s. And I didn't have to do the physical manual labor. So it worked for me because I didn't have to do what I didn't want to do. It worked for them. Then in my early 20s, I started, and I kind of fell into marketing. I was actually in school for theology. And my buddy had a job making like $9 an hour back when $5.25 was the minimum wage. And he was like, "Hey, I got this great job. I think you'd be good at it." So I went over and I got into it, and I noticed fairly quickly after being there not very long that the people that were making the most money were the people who were soliciting donations. So I started, or not soliciting donations, selling advertising in magazines for police officers, like the FOP, things like that. So I was like, well, that's what I want to do. I jumped over there, did that. I was like 18 into 19. And then they needed a manager, and me and a couple guys, most of them were in their like late 30s, 40s, went out for it. I actually ended up getting the position, took that, saw a 50% increase in their production in like a month. And then I got recruited into selling more advertising for the medical industry. Did well with that. Did it for about a year. And then I just kind of started getting, basically it was just like, okay, well, I can sell this advertising stuff. Then I started my own company. That took off. I built a house in Romania, lived back and forth, would run the company from Romania. So I tell people like I've been doing remote since like 2001.
Wow.
So, before remote or work from home or the concept of digital nomads really wasn't a thing back then. I was doing it with dial up and with phone cards at $3.75 a minute running my company back in the US. So I'd been in marketing my entire career. I really niched down in like mid 2000s into digital and specifically white collar, mostly attorneys. And that's really been my journey over the last 20, 22 years is in the digital realm. I've done lots of different things, social, SEO, websites. Just like anybody in marketing, there's things that come and go in it. There's things that you really have to do now that in 10 years you might not have to do. And so just like the industry, that's what I did. And then over the last couple of years, niching down even further, kind of taking my podcasting and which was more of a passion project on the side and combining it with attorneys and authority building, which is what I was doing through SEO. And I launched my company almost 2 years ago. It was December 1st, 2023. I soft launched and I fully launched in 2025 or in May of 2024. So what we're looking at right now is my website that's really about me. It's my brand website, if you will. Me as a podcast guest, me as a podcast host. We have a show coming out next month. And then me as a podcast network founder. We've got about 200 clients and so about 200 shows, about 300 episodes per month that we do for our
Wow.
clients.
So tell us about this business then exactly now. You help other people launch podcasts, build them,
Correct.
and either in the legal marketing world where they need to show themselves as the experts and authority, entrepreneurships. Tell us more about this business.
So I started it as kind of almost like a production house. We kind of gave a few pieces of content with it. And I kind of already knew this, but I didn't quite know where I wanted to go with it in the sense that a lot of my client profile, they are solo, small firms. They don't have a marketing director. They kind of do it themselves on the side, or they don't do it themselves on the side. And so it evolved from being just what I would say is more of a podcast production program to an ecosystem for people who want to market using a podcast. So what we've done is we've taken the podcast and we placed it at the center of what we do with our clients. We do FAQ podcasts. We write the questions. We provide the host. They literally just show up in a streaming format like this, answer 7 to 10 questions in a 20-minute podcast. We then take that 20 minutes and we build, videos, shorts, and reels. We build audiograms. We build so with one 30-minute podcast, 20 minutes, 30-minute slot with our team. We build a month's worth of marketing, 30 pieces of content, 2 to 3 pages for your website, plus the podcast itself. Then, so we built that out. We do once, twice, or a month, or 4 times a month. We do 4-month contracts, and we post. We post every day for our clients on up to 10 outlets. Here's what I saw. I saw people paying me money, getting their videos, putting it on their Facebook page, leaving it on Apple, and nothing was happening. And then they were coming back 4 months later, 8 months later, and say, "Oh, I'm just not seeing anything from this." And I was just like, "Well, yeah, you didn't market it. It's not like, the Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. They need to know why, and it needs to be done properly." So we kind of launched the marketing aspect about 5 or 6 months after going live fully. It was basically at the end, about a year ago now. We launched what we call 2.0, and now we call it an ecosystem because we're doing a podcast, we're putting it on 25 networks, we're doing video with it, we're doing all the editing and production, we're then taking it and breaking it up into marketing pieces, tying it back through like a Linktree website on their bios that we create for them. So we just tied everything in together to basically be like, all right, if all you do is pay us what you pay us to be once, twice, 4 times a month to do podcasts with us, is that enough? And we feel like it is, and we're always trying to make it even more.
Wow. So do you have like some success stories you could share on what have been some of the results for some of your best clients? And who is your best
Sure.
client? Has it been attorneys or is it now growing into
It's
all
definitely
kinds of
been
stuff?
attorneys. Yeah, it's definitely been attorneys. And that's kind of my niche specialty, helping them kind of establish themselves locally as their authority. So there's really been two types of success that we've seen, and then a third client profile that does well with us too. The first is the local, I'm a criminal defense attorney in Chicago. Matter of fact, Dave Schwenke, he's one of our clients from Original. And so, but I want to be just not seen as just another criminal defense attorney. I want people to see value. I want them to see that I know what I'm talking about. So we do a podcast with him. I think we do twice a month, if I remember correctly. It might be once, but anyway, he basically now, like, with these podcast sessions, we answer questions like what happens after a third DUI. So it's very searchable. It's query based. So the LLMs and the chat GPTs that are in place now are scaling and using our clients' content. So we're creating content that is friendly for the search engines, but also friendly for the end user. If I am a person and I just got my third DUI and I'm like, am I going to jail? Am I going to get a $15,000 fine? Like, what's going on? Well, I can watch this short podcast or these short, 1 minute answer videos from a local attorney answering my questions specifically. And then we use that to kind of niche down. So we have a lot of clients like that: estate planning, criminal defense, personal injury, business law, especially contractual business law, workers' comp. Any of these consumer-facing law firms do very well with this because they establish themselves as the local authority for their case and client type. Then we have the second category of people, which is an attorney who is maybe national or international with a very niche sort of practice area. So, for example, at the beginning of this year, we have a man, a law firm, an individual, Benjamin England, and he does tariffs and cross-border compliance. So it's been a big year for him, as you can imagine. And so we've been able to see him go from regionally referred to nationally known because he's so niche. When anybody searches on that topic, and he was the one creating the content for it, it was just popping, popping, popping. And I have lots of clients like that they're very niche on a national scale. And so we can kind of insert them into that place and have them compete on a national level very quickly. Then
So
the third
whether,
category,
oh, sorry, go
the
ahead.
third category is we actually have about 20 or so clients who serve the legal community. And so we actually provide, through our ecosystem on our emails, on all of our channels, we actually provide content to lawyers through these people. And we kind of supplement them a little bit. We say, hey, you're providing content, but it also helps you. So, we can give you a little bit of a reduction in price because, you're coming on board to be a part of this ecosystem. So those are really the three areas: local attorneys, niche national attorneys, and then businesses that serve the legal field.
That's pretty darn interesting. Now, are these conversation or interview podcasts, or these are solo going through the content like you were describing?
It's so probably 75% are what we call like guardrailed podcasts. So we do what we call guardrail with collaborative opportunities. In other words, this is the way our format goes. But if you want to do a little bit different format, you want to be the host because we provide a host, we provide the questions. So probably 75% of our clients, they're very well researched questions that have to do with who their client base is. Our hosts asks them, but it's a QA sort of, rapid fire QA, 20 minutes, 7 questions, roughly 7 minutes a piece, or I'm sorry, 3 minutes a piece. So that's really the format that, number one, people want. When they are learning this stuff, they don't want to hear a 20-minute answer to their question. They want a 90-second answer, 90-second answer to their question. And then, like I said, this is what the the SEO, like Google and the LLMs, want as well.
Got it. That makes a lot of sense. It's just quick. So your team does the interview of the attorney or of the experts. So if we were to take this outside of the legal world, if you're not an attorney, but you're looking here, listening to this going, wow, that's an interesting idea. I serve this community, or I serve this type of business owner, or I do the following, and you've wondered how would podcasts work for me. This is interesting. So you could maybe hire you to say, look, hey, I want a team to be interviewing me, this type of exact thing. Help me create the authority, make me the expert, and give me that content that lives online for people when they're searching, et
Mhm.
cetera. So have you picked up clients like that in different industries now with based on what you're
We do
doing?
have a few, and because of just since we've started, we get, I'd say, aggressively 3 to 5 a week of people that either they're lawyers and they own a different business, or their friend is like, I want to do what you're doing. And they're like, hey, we've got people. And we'll have a few that'll still come on because our ecosystem revolves around the legal community. And part of the biggest benefit of working with us is not just the production and the distribution, but it's the actual marketing, because we have created channels for legal answers, channels for business answers, channels for, so we're creating all these different channels to put our clients in as well, so that we're constantly marketing them in different ways. Now, that being said, next month, we're launching the Authority Podcast Network and the Expert Podcast Network. Expert is going to be more locally focused. So if you're a real estate expert in, Birmingham, Alabama, and then the Authority Podcast Network is more for people who nationally or internationally. I am a business coach for restaurateurs of $3 to $5 million, and I have this show. I want to speak to these people, content specific. So we are transitioning to that, because really, what I always tell people is if your offering is what is happening between your ears, then you should have a podcast. Because if you don't show what your differentiation is, then you become a commoditized entity. And that's what I've been telling attorneys for years. Stop hiding your knowledge behind a desk. Put it out there for people to see what you're doing. And now this is so much more accepted as a way of marketing, but by putting yourself in front of people, answering questions, assuaging fears, positioning yourself as an expert, you take yourself away from being commoditized, which means that the only thing that matters is price. You don't want to be a commoditized service. You want to be a service with authority, because now the question isn't up front, well, how much is it? It is after talking to you, because I've watched your podcast, I've seen your videos, and it's like, so what is it going to take for me to work with you? And that's a totally
Right.
different question.
Exactly. And then it's no longer, it's, yeah, I need you. And I could care less about the price. I'm convinced you're the expert I need for my particular problem. That makes a huge difference when it comes to are you going to get, top dollar for your service. Folks, I've got a whole lot more questions for DM. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
It's time to wow, surprise, and impress your clients with the most powerful customer draw card available anywhere. The Marketing Boost Solutions Show is brought to you by Marketing Boost, where you can get valuable travel and restaurant incentives to drive your leads from prospects to paying customers. Now you can offer complimentary hotel stays in over 130 destinations worldwide. Go to marketingboostsolutions.com and try it for free right now.
You just heard from our main sponsor, marketingboost.com. Folks, if you're joining us now and aren't aware of Marketing Boost, we serve small business owners with the power of incentives, incentive-based marketing, reward your clients, wow, and surprise and delight factor. So check out marketingboost.com. We provide you with complimentary hotel stays from 3 to 7 nights in over 180 destinations around the world. Hotel savings cards that come in increments of $1, $2, $3, and $500, and restaurant savings vouchers good at over 100,000 restaurants throughout the USA and Canada. We show you how to use these rewards to encourage your clients to take action, show up for an appointment, show up for a Zoom call, attend your webinar, reward them for buying an annual contract, and many, many more ideas that you can implement to encourage, to engage your clients. Check out marketingboost.com. We're back with DM. We're talking about authority, building your, either being on podcasts, et cetera. Now you do that. You're on my podcast. How would you suggest, is that part of your good marketing solution that you would suggest to people to get yourself, ready and trained up to be interviewed on third-party podcasts? What do you tell your clients when it comes to that?
Well, originally it was not, but what I've seen is with this ecosystem that's being built, we're starting to see shows that are coordinating with each other in our ecosystem. We're starting to have people come to us and say, "Hey, I have a show. Do you have an attorney that is knowledgeable on this? We're starting to have people who are coming to us and saying, hey, I want to be on a legal, podcast. How do I do this? And so one of the things that we're soft launching in Q1 and hopefully by Q2 launching fully is a podcast matching service. We're going to kind of start it as an over-the-top service on an already existing digital service for podcast matching, but we're going to be more like white glove with it, pre-picking, saying, no, you don't even need to see this. And then if we see it kind of swell up, the company that we're working with is building a white label solution where we can then just tag this into our offerings. And my philosophy is this: if I'm doing your show, everything I have to offer, I want to give you. But if you come to me and you're doing your own show, but you want to be a part of what I'm doing, you got to pay a little bit of an admission fee to if you want to be in the podcast guesting and having guests. If you want to be, we also have actually Q1. What we're launching is 2 or 3. I know we have 2 that we're launching right now. Streaming television networks like a Netflix, but for the legal industry. The first one is 4 lawyers from the 20 or so shows that we have that serve them. So finances, mental health, all the areas of being a lawyer and being a law firm owner. So we have that kind of like Netflix and it's a television like downloaded through Fire or Roku or Samsung. And then the other channel is from attorneys to people trying to find answers. So that's called Legal Answers, LPN Legal Answers. And that one is from our attorneys, a lot more of those, and their content. And what we're doing is when you land on the page, you can pick your state, you can pick your general issue, and then you can see all the podcasts for your state, who is there. And then we also, I'm hoping, can layer it even down into your county to where you can pick the county that you're in and then see what attorney serves your county that is part of their jurisdiction. So we're constantly seeing needs and wants and trying to meet those. And absolutely, podcast guesting is a piece of the puzzle if they want to use it, but it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. Like if you're a local injury attorney trying to get more injury cases, then being on a legal podcast in Charlotte, North Carolina, when you're in Orlando, Florida, does you no good other than maybe the cachet of saying I was on a podcast. So that's the other part of it, is it needs to make sense for you, your brand, and what you're trying to accomplish, which is part of what we're going to add in as well. Okay, this is why we think it fits. This is why we think you might not think it fits, but here's some shows that have requested, someone like you.
Wow. So what gave you the inspiration to even launch, to turn podcasting into this type of business where you're serving all of these? Because you said you were in the legal, you were marketing for attorneys for many years. How did that progress into this idea of creating a podcast network and creating the podcast platform for anybody looking for authority and experts, and coming soon the podcast experts, the podcast authority, et cetera? Great concepts. How'd that come about?
Well, twofold. So one, in 2019, I launched my own Austin-focused podcast and spent a lot of money, a lot of time. It was really a passion project. Didn't make any money, didn't monetize off it, but I learned a bunch, built a lot of very important relationships, and still hear and see fruit from that today. Then at the same time, I was partner in a SEO agency for lawyers. And one of the things that I consistently heard them asking is, do you guys do a podcast? And then one of the things that we were doing is breaking up an audio book that we had created for them into podcasts. We were just basically taking the chapters and making them 10 podcasts. And so people seem to really love that. But what it was is they love the low friction podcast. And so what we try to do, my team knows this, I'll have to say is 3 words, guys. And they're like, better, faster, less friction, because that's what we're always going for. And so as the attorneys kept asking me, I keep a notebook where I keep business ideas. Some of them I know I'll never do, restaurant ideas, and I'll figure out margins. I don't know if it's natural or not, but it's just what I do. So I just kind of brainstorm on stuff like that. Some people play World of Warcraft or Dungeons and Dragons or, whatever, chess. My mind likes to play business. And so I'll normally have a solid 20, 30 in this book, like fully formed ideas that I could probably take to market if I wanted to. And this podcast concept was was one of them. And so we just kind of, I was just like, all right, my partner sent that to me, and I was 5 months away from my wedding, and I had income coming in, but we would have had to make some pretty decent cuts long term. And so I just told my then fiance, now wife, I was just like, starting a business, from scratch again, and that's okay. And I'm going to do this podcast thing. And so that's what I did. And it's evolved from the beginning. When we first started, it was the show with 3 pieces of content for each show. Now each show has 30 pieces of content plus the website content plus us putting them on the network that we're getting ready to do. So we just keep adding to it because we see that these pieces fit into what we're already doing, and so it's a natural progression to add them. So that's what we're trying to do.
So you mentioned earlier about advertising or promoting the podcast. Tell us more about what you do for clients there. How do you promote their show?
Using social media primarily.
Their episodes.
Yeah, primarily, basically using social media. So we have it set up where, we'll create or add in up to 10 accounts. There's like Facebook, TikTok, Threads, Blue Sky, there's like 10 major ones. And we create these pieces of content and then we rotate them. So any given day, we'll take, one piece of content and put it on Facebook, a different one, and we rotate them all around so that there's each day on each different one is showing different things and they don't cross over with each other. And so our clients are posting at least every day. But our weekly shows, they're posting 3 times a day with the content that we create. And when I say we post for them or on their behalf. And social media, because that's where people are. That's what's going to drive. And so we take clips from the show. Hey, did you enjoy this? Click through to watch the podcast or to listen to the podcast. So that's what we do. We just drive everything. We funnel it back in through the link tree straight into whatever podcast venue we're trying to promote.
Is any of that paid advertising to promote those, or just within their networks?
Within their networks, it's not paid, but the algorithms are so wonderful right now. Honestly, we're kind of in because anytime there's a transition with the algorithms, it kind of creates a little pocket of multiplied effort in social. And right now we're in one of those because everybody's switching over to the algorithm that is TikTok based, based on user experience. Basically, what are they clicking on? What are the actual actions? Because 80% of people lurk. It might even be 90 something percent. But the vast majority of people that interact with content never click never make a comment, never share it to anybody. And the algorithms used to not be able to really take that into account. But because TikTok was able to do it, now pretty much up until even LinkedIn now, which they just switched back a few months back to that sort of content. So because of that, in these marketplaces, if these people click on anything that has to do with divorce, my clients are going to show up because we're doing so well for them with their social media, being consistent, providing value content that people click on and consume. So if people are watching instead of the standard 3 seconds, they're watching 23 seconds of it. The algorithms are tracking that, and people who have searched anything in divorce in the last 3 days, they're pushing that in front of them to see if there's interest. So the algorithms are doing a lot of that work now that we used to have to do before by either, hey, like this, follow, share it, all the things that we used to have to try to get people to do with our content. The algorithms themselves are monitoring what's being done and rewarding accordingly.
Wow. Cool stuff. Folks, we'll be right back. We're going to come back and ask DM about storytelling and personal brand building. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
Is your business on autopilot yet? Do you have automation in place to capture, nurture, and convert prospects into clients via email, SMS, ringless voicemails, appointment setting? Get all the inbound and outbound marketing tools in one place. Go to marketingboostsolutions.com for more on automating your business so you can make money while you sleep.
Folks, I've been an internet marketer since 1996, before Facebook, before Google, and a whole lot of other things. I should be a billionaire, but I'm not quite yet. Well, you just heard from automationbooster.com. One of the companies we provide via Marketing Boost is a upsell from Marketing Boost. In a nutshell, that's what it is. We give you all the tools for all your inbound, all your outbound marketing, your funnel builder, your website builder, the ability to email, text message, voicemail broadcasting, all affordably through one platform that also includes over 150 different templates for nearly every industry niche out there to give you the ideas, the exact blueprint on how to implement our incentives, the Marketing Boost incentives, into your campaigns to help you book more appointments, close more sales, etc. So if you don't have a complete CRM system, or even if you do, you might want to compare it to automationbooster.com. We make it incredibly affordable to set up all your automations and include Marketing Boost incentives into your marketing strategies. All right, we're back with DM. I wanted to get into storytelling, one of the obvious expertises that you do for many people that are looking for that authority, that expertise, from attorneys to other experts. What role does storytelling play in building a brand, and how do you where do you guide your clients in that arena?
So I actually just produced a newsletter on this because lawyers, obviously, they have like attorney-client privilege, and so they have to be really careful with their stories. But one of the things that you can do is step back and reframe it and say things like, well, when I came up against this, with some clients, this is how I handled it, and kind of back off the specificity of language. That being said, people want to know that what they're going through. So it's kind of funny. It's kind of like idiosyncratic in that everybody's unique, but everybody wants to know that you've helped someone just like them. Although no one's like them, they want to be, you know what I mean? So that is, we hear the phrase riches and niches, or riches and niches, however you want to say it. But what happens is when you share a story, whether it's abstract or whether it's specific, depending on your context, lawyer would have to be more abstract. When people see themselves in the scenario that you're describing or relate to the person or the event that you're describing, that builds, there's some chemical stuff that happens. There's all kinds of things that happen there psychologically, emotionally, chemically. And so that's why storytelling is so key. When I give facts, it's much harder for humans emotionally to relate to pure logic than it is for them to relate to an event or a feeling that somebody had. And so that's why I think storytelling is so powerful. I think that you have to be willing to either tell stories about yourself, and especially you want to do that in as self-deprecating of a manner as possible without losing a credibility, because you don't want to come off as pompous, arrogant, know-it-all. But storytelling, that is kind of how we guide our people, is like, listen, understand that the knowledge you give needs to be related to the person listening. And so anytime you have a quick story that goes with that, you're going to pull that home in a much stronger way.
I want to share my screen real quick and show the other business that kind of ties in with the same that you've been talking about this whole meeting, is the legal podcast network.com. This is where you're promoting, if I understand it correctly, where you're promoting where for all these attorneys to use your service, and where you film their shows, etc. Tell us about this.
Well, that's what we've been talking about. If we want to talk about, like, maybe use this visual here, click on podcast cycle. It's like the middle one, top center. Not quite top. There's like the banner with our hours. Yeah, click on that. This kind of explains to you what we do over with a podcast. So you see here, we come in, we onboard, we create the graphics, we do all that. We provide a producer, we provide a co-host, the questions, we do the shoot. Then it goes into finishing. We do editing, color grading, branding, skins, logos, all of that. And once that's done and finished, we go down to the distribution channels. There's 25 plus places we place audio and video. And then these are the 10 marketing platforms that we market for our clients on: LinkedIn, Threads, Blue Sky, Pinterest, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, all that fun stuff. So what do we put on these marketing platforms? You see the shorts. Those are the about 60-second videos that we see all over the internet. We take little pieces of each podcast with that. We take the static images. These are more just like more traditional, like, hey, this episode's about this. You should go check it out. And then audiograms, that's another little snippet of a podcast. And then again, take that website content and do the same thing. So all of this, 30 pieces of content, 2 to 3 pages, 25 places to put your podcast, all of that comes from 30 minutes of a client's time. Everything else we're doing and taking care of.
Wow. Now, what I wanted to get into next, after you talked a little bit about this, is most of the folks who listen to the Marketing Boost podcast, they're in business for themselves as well and have had major struggles, faces making payroll. Tell me about some of the most difficult times this operation you've built has all been in the last 2 years, you said, correct?
Correct.
Tell me about, for the sake of inspiring others, what was one of your worst moments during these 2 years that, you're like, did we make the right move? I don't know. I haven't talked to you about this before. This is a live question. So what happened? Is there anything that happened that you learned from that nearly, where you could inspire other entrepreneurs to say, wow, we nearly ran out of money here. I couldn't make payroll. The marketing, this was a major mistake, whatever. I'm going to hear about some of the worst steps and how you overcame it.
Absolutely. So I think one of the important things to lay contextually is this is a bootstrap company. I had no investors. It's my own money, my own time, my own everything. Now, I don't say that to brag, but you talked about payroll. When payroll every week, when you're looking at the accounts and you're saying, how much can I take and make all my bills and my payroll? We certainly were at that place for a while. There was times when I had to go to my team and say, hey guys, the bank's closed on Monday and things are settling a little different. So instead of Friday this week, your payroll's going to hit Tuesday of next week. And I never liked to do that. But there were a few times I had to do that because that was happening at the time. The money wasn't quite there, but I knew it would be. We had clients and things like that. So I think though, so those times, they're just part of because I was 21, 22, 23 years old. I'm trying to think of the exact time frame but I was in my early 20s and I started a business. And I remember I would literally sometimes on a Thursday night jump on the phones after my people left, and I had about 15, 20 people working for me. They would leave and I would call California and sign 3 or 4 clients on a credit card so that I had payroll the next morning. So I've lived there. I've done that. I did that in my early 20s. I didn't want to quite live that way again, but I was the main salesperson for the first 100 clients of my company. I was the only salesperson. I came up with the product. Then I came up with the sales process. I came up with the setting process. I came up with the marketing process. I've come up with each step of the process. But one area that is not my strength, so I'm sales process development, product development, marketing, these are, put me in, coach, right? But logistics, I've typically had a partner, fulfillment, things like that. So there were some pretty key positions that I kind of thought were covered, and we were creating procedures and stuff. And I learned after losing an important integral piece in the beginning of somebody, when they left, I learned that most of the knowledge was in their head and not on paper. And so we kind of fell behind with clients. And I've been very fortunate because we've always had a great production value. So our clients have been a little more patient with us because we've done an overall awesome job. But to me, it wasn't acceptable that, we were sending stuff to clients that didn't have they were just you misspelled my name in this. And so I actually had to kind of come up with a whole system that I've never done anything like it before, where it's the production into QA, into client, into CS, and this whole little system that I had to kind of come up with. But we came up with it because we had some people that were pretty ticked off at us and some people that I had to give a free month to. And so 3 times during the first year, we went from spreadsheets to Monday, from Monday to another program I can't quite remember, then to ClickUp. And so it was just getting CS going, because it wasn't really my forte, was a very hard thing for me, because production was great and the marketing was great, but the actual in the middle stuff with communicating with clients, I fell short on because I just didn't realize how key it was. Because for a while, we only were able to hear the people that praised us the loudest or criticized us the loudest. But that's only 5-10% on each end of your spectrum. It's the 80 to 90% in the middle that you really need to know what's going on with. And it wasn't until I put my CS team, and we have 3 or 4 on that team now. I mean, we've had a lot of growing pains, but we're nearing 60 people on the team. And so things like that, that is something that, like, I hope I never have to go through again, because I take what I do seriously. And like, if a client's not happy, I do lose sleep over it. Unless I could just tell they're a difficult person, and like you literally could give them $1 million worth of clients every day and they'd still be mad at you. You got to like separate that emotionally. But yeah, I'd say that those were some pretty big learning lessons for me. I should have hired a CS expert to help me set up sooner. That being said, if I'd have hired sooner, I wouldn't have who I have now. And I'm very happy who I have in place now. And so in the end, it worked out. But getting there sometimes is the hard part.
And how do you go about, is your staff like all in a local office, or you have people around the world?
We have 9 different countries. Most of our client-facing people are in the U.S. A lot of our back office people are, we have people in Pakistan, Philippines, Egypt, Mexico, El Salvador, like I said, 9 countries. So, it's just one of those things where, I mean, honestly, the last probably 10 hires, I just go to LinkedIn and put it in there, say that it's remote, say that, as long as you can speak English at a native level, this is what, and then we've been able to hire that way, find people, because people understand it now. It used to be 10 years ago when I tried to recruit people to work from home, their assumption was you're a scam. You're running some sort of scam.
Right.
Now people like, oh, cool, it's remote, work from home, awesome. It's just totally flipped. But I
Yeah.
remember recruiting, like I had to sell myself and my company, 10 years ago when it was all remote. Now it's like, oh, I heard you do remote here. Like, like I want to be a part of this. So I do
That's
have
what
a
people, yeah.
few people everywhere, but yeah, I mean, it's definitely spread out.
I say that to entrepreneurs all the time. There's never been a better time to be an entrepreneur because you can build a team with people from anywhere in the world. Experts are
Hmm.
better than you at certain areas that you're not necessarily an expert at. Outsource it and build a team. You can't do everything on your own. You can't be in it. You can't wear every hat. So as soon as you start making some money, you got to build a team and recruit people like you do with 8 different countries, etc. How important do you, or what do you do for your clients when it comes to helping them generate reviews by chance? Are you involved in anything with that?
That's not really an area that we focus on for them. I mean, listen, I could do a little bit of everything, but people who do a little bit of everything are a lot not good at everything else, right? So, like, it's one of those things where we don't really do that. There's other companies that do it cost effectively. There's other companies that charge more, but probably do a better job. But for us, like, here's the thing. Let's say you see a 4.2, but you watch 3 podcasts, spend an hour listening to this attorney. You feel like they know their stuff specifically on what you're doing. You're more apt to go with that attorney than a 4.9 who just has a generic website that says, I do that.
Right. Yeah,
In
well,
that's my perspective, but
makes sense. Well, I just asked out of curiosity because I want to tell everybody about something I'm really excited about it. We're launching very soon. I've been saying this for a while, but it will be part of our end of year promo. And it's a trustbyreviews.com. Folks, we have built a platform to help you gain and solicit an ongoing flow of constant new reviews, testimonials, video reviews, etc. If you're not soliciting them, you're not going to get very many. You're only going to get the people that are not happy with your product or service to post a review, more than likely. So if you want the positive reviews, you got to be asking everybody. Now, our platform, one thing we do differently is we give you a 72-hour mediation window if the review is negative. So if you got somebody upset at something your product, your service, or something you dropped the ball with, we give you an opportunity to fix that in 72-hour window before that review goes live. The best part of what we do is if the clients are happy, 3, 4, or 5-star reviews, we're going to give you the tools to help get that client a few clicks to post their positive feedback on as many as, 200 different third-party review sites. We'll help you get those reviews posted on Yelp, on Google, on Facebook, on Trustpilot, on SiteJabber, on Shopper Approved, etc. So one happy client could turn into 4 or 5 reviews that live all over the internet, branding, picking up your brand. So, and we do that, of course, using Marketing Boost incentives to encourage, and reward your client for taking their honest feedback and going the extra mile of giving you a video review or posting their honest feedback on multiple third-party review sites. So you're going to want to check out trustbyreviews.com, and that's coming to you all starting next week, Cyber Week, and throughout the rest of this year. So get ready to check out Trust by Reviews. Back with DM here. Sir, this has been a great conversation. I want to jump into what do you think is some of the biggest mistakes that entrepreneurs make when it comes to podcasting, and how would how can they overcome or try to miss those mistakes?
I think that podcasters jump to legacy or thought leader sort of podcasting before they've established themselves as an expert locally. And so people will be like, "Oh, I'm a divorce lawyer. Okay, what do you do your podcast on?" Well, I do it on the state of divorce in the United States. And it's like, okay, have you gotten any clients from that? Well, no, I've been doing it 2 years now. I think, I think somebody mentioned it one time. Well, who mostly listens to you? Oh, it's mostly other attorneys. Oh, are you trying to market to attorneys? Well, no, but okay. So the biggest mistake is that they don't start their content or their podcast from their desired client base or their desired listener. They basically say, I think this would be a good idea. I'm going to do a podcast on this. And because it's adjacent to what they're doing, they assume that it's a good idea, or because it's something that they would want to listen to. But here's the thing: what you want to listen to is not what your clients want to listen to. The client that you have probably is listening to something completely different than you. So stop creating content for yourself and create it for the end user. That's what we really, really hammer home and try to focus on is, number one, just make sure who is your content for. Because if you're just spitting into the wind, hoping that something comes back, you're probably not going to get very good results. Whereas when you build everything, the content, the subject, each episode is built on the person that I want as a client is going to watch this and find value in it, then you are building a good podcast. And that is, I think, the biggest thing is people make podcasts that they want to listen to instead of podcasts that the people that they serve will listen to.
Well, that was pretty powerful. So where do you see the future of podcasts going, especially for the professionals and the experts?
Two things I see coming. One is production value. I'm really big, like we're setting up TVs like what I have here. I have a 77-inch or whatever it is behind me. We do 75 to 83 on our team just to, because we can swap this out. And let's say I was hosting, which I don't do that, but let's say I was hosting, I could literally put my client's brand behind me. And then if they had a setup, which we have some clients doing this now as well, setting up this sort of setup as well with decent lighting, good microphone, streaming camera, and then the TV behind you that you can do that. So production value, number one. And this is just an example. It's not necessarily where we're going, period. Number two is entertainment value. Every single entertainment vehicle in history has had the same arc. I don't know why podcasting would be any different. In the beginning, a radio show just had to be there. Content is king with radio in the early 1900s. In the mid 1900s, content was king for television. But what happened over time? The space got more crowded. So people differentiated by becoming higher quality. And then they differentiated by becoming more entertaining, either funny, interesting, whatever. So those are the two things, is entertainment and production value. Those watermarks always raise with competition in media. Same with YouTube shows. Think about YouTube shows. In the beginning, YouTube shows was just, 14 to 25-year-old people sitting at home. You could see their little room in the background. They're childhood bed, and they're just talking about whatever. And now those same people, many of them, have $1 million budgets for a YouTube episode. And it's going to be the same thing in podcasting. The people that are going to succeed at it are going to constantly raise their personal watermark. But here's the advantage, and you said this earlier, and I've said this: what you can do for thousands of dollars in equipment used to take you hundreds of thousands of dollars to do, just in our time in media. Because you said what, 80, or when was it that 96 that you got
Yeah.
into marketing? Okay, I got into it in 96, 97, somewhere in there. So right around the same time as you. So, we've seen that happen just in our lifetime. And so that's what I see happening with podcasting, is that kind of flip over to where, having high quality, being good at it, it's not just enough to be there. You have to be there and do it right.
Yep. So what do you say, podcasting or otherwise, what's the most important piece of advice you would give to business owners that might be listening today?
Just any piece of with anything and running your own
Anything or
business.
everything, or yeah.
I'm going to go back to something you already said and kind of hopefully drive that home a little bit. So one of the biggest philosophies that I personally attribute to any amount of perceived success that people have, that I have, I live by the rule: I want to do in my business what only I can do in my business. And the more we focus on people doing what is their strength and then either automating or offshoring the tasks that take up a lot of time. All of my departments have at least one VA from like Africa or the Philippines that just does I got to take all this info and put it in this spreadsheet to put it in to create a CSV to go into to go into our Pipedrive CRM, blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? My customer facing person that I hired that I want meeting with clients, I don't want them doing that. And you should be constantly looking at your business almost obsessively to be like, okay, how can I offshore or automate? How can I make things run faster? How can I make them not only run faster, but run more efficiently and run them more precisely? Always looking at that, looking at your people. Another thing, like my director of content, our last leadership meeting, I was like, well, what do you need? And she's like, I need another person. I'm buried. And I was like, okay, well, let's meet before we hire somebody. And I went in and I sat down with her and I was like, all right, tell me about your workflow. We found 15 hours a week like that. Just her saying, well, I've been in these meetings with CS. And I'm like, do you talk during those meetings? They're like, no, but I think it helps the client to see me. And I'm like, the client just wants good content. If they know that their CS person is meeting and that you'll review the notes and create content based on the notes, and they get good content, they're going to be just as happy as if they saw your face. And she's like, yeah, you're probably right. So we took like 8 hours there. And then we took another 7 hours from somewhere else. And, I think another 2 or 3 somewhere, but I can't quite remember where it is off the top of my head. So as a business owner, look at workflows, look at efficiency. And I'm not talking about, oh, you use 3 napkins today over the course of a year, you're going to cost me $1.57 with 12 employees, like that sort of efficiency. But I'm talking about workflows, because if you have a knowledge worker that you are paying a premium to, and they're doing freaking spreadsheets, or they're doing some sort of remedial task with 25, 30, 40% of their time, you as a business owner are literally throwing away. When you could take somebody to pay them $4, $5 an hour, or automate a task for $200 a month, and instead you're like, oh, I'm going to pay this person that I pay $25 an hour to, or $35 an hour, whatever it is, and I'll just have them do it. It's easier. No, it's not easier. You're wasting money. You're wasting time. You're wasting capacity. So that's what I would encourage, because I'm obsessed with it. Like, I just find myself constantly like reviewing, looking at, and it's fun to me. It's almost a game.
Yeah,
But
it's a matter of whatever you do over and over, or any of your team members do over and over, but especially
yep,
you. If you, as the business owner, have any business process, something you're doing over and over several times a week or not, that's probably something you can outsource. You can set it up as a
yep,
business process and have somebody else do it or automate it, like you say. With AI, between AI, automation, and outsourcing, you ought to be able to set up a lot of things that don't cost as much, especially doing it yourself, or having your high-end staff doing instead of someone else. So that's been great. Folks, if you like the content we brought you today, I really would appreciate you listening to us today. If you like the content, make sure you give us a like, subscribe to the show, give us any comments below on what you thought about it or what you want to know, and we'll get back to you. And do us one huge favor, grab the link and share this with any other entrepreneur, especially if they're looking for ways to find the Legal Podcast Network. If they're looking for ways to become an authority, go check out DM, Mr. Dennis Meador. Dennis, any final words on how people can find you?
You showed a couple of my websites. I will tell people Dennis Meador, Meador, like a meadow, but with an R instead of a W on the end. LinkedIn has kind of been my playground the last few months. I've really enjoyed it. We're starting to build a lot of relationships there. It's been the time I've spent on there, when you look at the results it's brought to my company, have been great. But that's where I live now. Like every day, at least I try to put out one piece of directly from me in the moment content, and then videos and things like that. Plus my inbox, I'm in there. I do have other people that work on my LinkedIn in different ways as well, but that's where I stay. So if you're listening to this, hey, this guy is kind of cool, I'd like to get to know him a little bit, hit me up in LinkedIn. And then when you come to the island where I live here in Belize, we'll meet up for a drink.
Sounds great. I can't wait to meet you in Belize. Again, folks, thank you. And we'll see you on the next episode of the Marketing Boost Solutions podcast. Thank you. Thanks for listening to another episode of Marketing Boost Solutions podcast with your hosts, Captain Marco Torres. Now it's on you. Take the next step now. Go to marketingboostsolutions.com for more on how you can wow, delight, and surprise your clients with the most amazing draw card on the planet. So stay thirsty, my friends. Stay thirsty for knowledge. See you next time.